the last time that you got a checkup? And I'm not talking about your health, I'm talking about your wealth. In this video, we are going to address 3 things that you need to know to make sure that you have a healthy financial lifestyle. My name is Carmen.
And I'm Darius. And just to add a little context to this, let's think about the last time we got a checkup. The last time we got a checkup on our health was probably when something went wrong. And whenever something goes wrong is when we go to the doctor for help.
Yep.
Now, the doctors are able to fix anything as long as you have the right medical insurance and you can afford to pay the copay. And then what do? They prescribe you with 8 pills a day that you have to take every day that addresses the symptoms, but it doesn't fix the root cause. Mm-hmm. Now, the side effect of taking these pills could be worse than the actual problem itself.
Yeah. Because
again, we fix the symptoms and not the root cause. Now, the same thing can be applied when it comes to our money.
Yeah.
Whenever something goes wrong is when we want to run to the bank so they can give us money to help fix our problems. Now, when it comes to the bank, the only thing that we have to do is make sure that we have good credit and we can afford to make the principal and interest payments that they send to us. Now, the only thing we have to do is afford the monthly minimum payments. Now, the side effect to this is the problem isn't fixed. It only addresses the symptoms. At the end of the day, you can create a bigger problem than what you had in the first place.
Totally. And you're spending a lot more money.
Exactly.
So what we want you to do, if you need help with understanding your financial health, then definitely click on the link below to join our currency crash course, because this course was designed specifically for you to help you discover where you are and bridge that gap to get you to where you need to be. So with that said, let's jump to the very first point. And the very first point that we want to ask you ready? Get ready for this question, is can you manage your day-to-day expenses without credit? And when I say without credit, I'm not talking about trying to get points or whatever the case may be. I'm just saying, can you afford your day-to-day expenses without credit? Now, if you answered no to this question, then maybe it's because one of 2 things. Maybe we have some spending issues. Maybe we're overspending, living above our means. Or the second thing is maybe you don't produce enough to bring home enough bacon to afford your lifestyle. Now, either way, these are both a problem. Either you're not producing enough or you're overspending. So what we want you to do is just take inventory of your current financial health. Because if you have to rely on credit to get you through the months, then you are significantly behind the 8 ball, my friend. And we're not judging you. We're just trying to help you understand that this is not okay. And you need to create a plan to be able to make sure that you can afford your lifestyle with the cash that you got in the bank.
And at the end of the day, these are symptoms to having a bad financial health.
Exactly. Yeah, because when you're dependent on the credit cards, you are not addressing the root cause. And the root cause is either overspending or you need to figure out a way to generate more income.
Absolutely.
Or both.
Now, the second point that we want to make is, can you manage a financial hardship without credit? That's key. Can you afford to take care of any financial situation that comes up without having to use credit?
And again, we're not talking about points. Can you pay for it outright?
Right, because at the end of the day, what credit does is it addresses the symptom. It helps you out temporarily, but at the end of the day, it's going to put you further and further in debt. Mm-hmm. And debt is something that takes money out of your household and drives it away from it. Mm-hmm. We don't want to do that if we want to maintain a good financial lifestyle or maintain a healthy financial lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. In addition to the credit, I mean, sometimes people dive into their 401ks, their pensions, other alternative sources of financing where they may have a nest egg. So again, the question is, if a financial hardship comes up, can you pay for it with your checkings account or the savings account? Not anything else. Because again, if you're relying on other sources of financing, you're behind the 8 ball.
Right, and that means that you don't have control. Until you start taking control of your financial health, then someone else will continue controlling it for you. And I came to this realization when I was laid off. Yes, it was a very hard time for us and something hard for me to comprehend. But what I did is I realized that it was my fault that this happened.
Yeah.
What happened was a company came and bought the company that I was working for and moved it to another state. Now, the reason why this was my responsibility is because I was the one that made the decision to work for this company. I was the one that made the decision to accept this salary. So once I started taking responsibility and ownership for the things that happened, then I realized that I can control more of my financial future, because I can control the amount of money I make, I can control the source of my income, and I can control how much I work for said money. And that's one of the reasons why we created the currency course, so that we can also help you come to that realization to bridge that gap between where you are now and where you want to be.
Yes. Now, one thing that Darius said that I really want to make sure that you all understood was when he was saying that he was laid off, was he took responsibility for it. You know, a lot of times we like to blame others for things that happen to us, but at the end of the day, what is the root cause? He was dependent on someone else to provide him an income. And when you sign on that dotted line and agree to work for someone, you also have to realize that you're accepting everything else that can come with it. So again, when we're talking about dependency is, are you dependent on your employer to make sure that your bills get paid? Are you dependent on credit to make sure financial hardships are paid? Are you dependent on credit to make sure your bills get paid? If you are dependent, then we have a problem that needs to be addressed.
Right. As soon as you blame somebody else for your situation, that means that somebody else has control over your life and you don't.
Ding,
so
ding,
take
ding.
responsibility of that and control it yourself.
Exactly. All right. Now, the third point is, are you on track to meet your financial goals? Do you even have financial goals to begin with? Let's think about that for a minute. Are you on track to meet your financial goals? And do you even have financial goals to begin with? Now, we're asking these difficult questions for you today because we realize sometimes people don't ask these questions. And a lot of times we don't even know that we need to have financial goals to begin with. We just know that the income's coming in, we can pay our bills and we're good. But what goals do you want to set up for yourself? Do you want to have a certain amount of money in savings? Do you want to be able to invest? Do you want to be able to create a business? What do you want to do? Because all of these things are going to be affected by the amount of income that you're generating.
Right, because if we can only see just the month in front of us by the income that we have coming in, that's how we start getting into trouble.
Yes.
Because if we just start living for the next day, there's years and years that's left on our lives that we need to start considering, and goals that we need to set up in order to address some of those financial things. The average life expectancy moving forward is going to be about 95. Now, if you're 30 and you're still living from paycheck to paycheck, then you have a huge problem. Maybe not now, but eventually it's going to rear its ugly head. And then what are you going to do to take care of it?
Yeah, we are no longer living for our future selves. We're only living for our current self. So again, what are the financial goals that you want to create for yourself? And there's none that are too small or too big. You really have to take the time to discover what it is that you want to do. And you can do that with our currency course.
Right. So if you answer no to any of the 3 questions that we asked, then you have to start taking responsibility and looking at the root cause,
yes,
not the symptoms.
So the moral of the story is, do not neglect your financial health, because what will happen is you'll be put into a worse situation because you'll be dependent on someone else to bail you out. And now you have to spend more money in principal and interest when you could have been saving that money for yourself or investing to make more money for your household.
So know that you have control of your financial health and use that control to create the life that you want. Are you looking for more information on this topic? Then check out our next video where you'll learn some financial habits that will make you wealthy.
And we're going to leave you with a quick preview for the next video. Remember to own your own lifestyle,
or someone else will. If both of us had the same amount of income and one of us had better financial habits than the other, the person with the better financial habits will always end up with the most money.